Hey, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the J Lounge. Of course, you guys know I am your hostess with the mostest, Miss J, aka Miss Simone Jackson, here to bring you guys another wonderful episode of the J Lounge. Of course, everyone knows out there the J Lounge is an entertainment-based podcast show where we talk with actresses, singers, writers, directors, filmmakers, you name it, they all come down here and they all speak with me today. Of course, you guys know I've always bring you guys a great guest, and I'm super excited to be speaking with my next guest for today. She is an actress. She's also a model and also a producer and writer with her own production company. It's called Envision Motion Pictures. She is a boss, and I love to see it. I love to see boss women in control, and I can't wait to hear more about her story and her work. Everyone, please give a super warm welcome to Miss Elizabeth Regal. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful, actually, in this world of virtual communication. Isn't that wonderful? We can reach everybody all over the globe. Who knows who's going to see this, huh? I love it.
Well, I appreciate you giving me your time today. As I just named up, you are one busy woman, so I appreciate you giving me your time and speaking with my audience and getting us a chance to know more about your work and who you are.
Well, I'm Elizabeth Regal. Perez, that's my maiden name, because people will ask, well, I see a Perez, because I changed my name, Hollywood standards, because I was pigeonholed to just Latina roles. So I made it a little bit more, I guess, ethnically ambiguous, because they're like, okay, you're blonde and you got a last name Perez, what's going on with that? So I changed it when I came to Hollywood, but I did start out in the entertainment business very briefly in my childhood, where I grew up, Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah, didn't have the Southern accent, but a lot of the country can't take the country out of the girl, right? So I like a few things when I was younger. At 11 years school by Barbizon Modeling, they come after a lot of the young girls. They wanted to do an entire free makeover on me in my little elementary school of Eagleton, Tennessee. It's like very few people even know where that is. Place where everybody knows their neighbors, everybody knows your business, kind of, sort of. And my parents didn't really want me to get into the whole modeling, acting, and all that stuff. And they felt that industry could be a little bit toxic at times, thrusting us into adult world. And of course, there's things, like drugs, alcohol, all kinds of stuff going on. And they wanted me to stay focused on my studies. But so what I did is, when I was 18 in college, that was the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, to take up psychology as a minor, because I really wanted to act. I was at UT Knoxville, and I got into the modeling industry, and I did my first runway show with Matron. Of my look, I was really skinny, like a size 2 back in the day when I could really starve myself. Now that was a long time ago. I'm dating myself here. And from then I fell into a little bit of front cover of Watson's magazine. It was a department store back in Knoxville, Tennessee. And by the way, I'm ethnic. I am half Filipino and half Caucasian, although you can't tell with my features and all that.
Hey.
So, and I was the first ethnic woman to grace the cover of that department store. And that was in the 90s, where things were shifting. Wow. So I didn't think that anything would come of that. And then I started to do advertisements for Buffalo Exchange, which was a consignment store that's all the way out here out west now. And I continued to work Amazon Essentials. I got signed by a couple of agents, and then started to do modeling, acting work in Nashville, Atlanta, some in Chicago. And it just kind of went from there. And I said, I kind of got off track with my studies, even I left school in my senior year, and I came to Hollywood at 25. And immediately I came out here. It was the hardest thing I ever done, because 70% of us fail within 3 years. And my parents were going to be back. They were right. I went back right away after 6 and I never turned back. It was a really interesting story what came out here. It was really interesting, because I believe in a lot of spiritual and prophetic, and it was really weird. I'll tell you the story. I arrived at this really interesting hotel called the El Nido in never been to the big city. I was a small town girl. The biggest I ever done was Atlanta with the weekend with my friends. So I was really kind of naive, and I stuck out like a sore thumb because I had these big curls and all this stuff. And the way I dressed was so like, people thought I was, oh, she's beautiful, but she like, you're not from here kind of thing. So I showed up at the El Nido, and it was really strange people. It was really nice. But it was not what I was used to. Everybody was just really weird to me. And it wasn't the best neighborhood, but a lot of legendary Hollywood actors and talent and musicians stayed there. And I remember my first day I was there getting out of my cab because I didn't even have a car. I came out with $500 in my pocket and nobody. I didn't realize that this is a business because the media sells a dream, but they don't really. There's a lot of politics and geopolitics that go into this, and no one faith like everyone else. And it was my first day here, and I was crying and homesick. I was like, oh my God, I can't stay in this rundown hotel. This is not safe, blah, blah, blah. Lying on my bed. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to book my ticket back to Knox Airlines or something like that, or Southwest Airlines. I can't remember. I was kneeling down on my bed, and nobody really talked to me much because people kind of, do their own thing in LA. Everybody's in their own little world. I wasn't used to that being a small town girl. Everybody gives you the warm welcome. No, that wasn't like, I was like, right. My room, sitting on my bed. Goodness. Things were kind of run down looking. It was dusty. I was like, what the heck was I thinking? And I was about ready to book my ticket back. And I said, this is it. This is the second time I came out. This is fate. This is not meant to be. It's just a dream. It's not a reality. I can't make this work. My parents were right. I was in this whole negative mindset, listening to everybody but me. And God was the one that brought me out here to begin with. And I was like, no, but my family's saying this, all these distractions. And I was about ready to book that ticket. And I literally heard a knock at the door, at my door. And I opened the door, and there was this cute little blonde woman. She was in her 40s. She's at my age now. And she goes, are you okay? You look like you're crying. She goes, I wanted to welcome you. She came in and sat on my dress. She goes, what's wrong? I said, oh, I made a mistake. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. She goes, whoa, 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 stop. She goes, just hang on a minute. Let me talk to you for a second. And she said, my name's Diane. And she was from the South too. She's from Florida. She had been out there for 10 years as a chef, and she was a real street smart woman. She knew this town, what it was like. She knew how rough it was. Mm-hmm. And she sat on my dresser, and she goes, we got to know each other, and we had like a couple hours conversation. I had so much separation anxiety. I was like, what the heck did I just do? And I remember her giving me a lot of advice, a lot of coaching. She gave me a hug. The first person that ever greeted me, she goes, I just wanted to let you know the landlord told me you were coming and where you were coming from. She goes, oh my gosh, another one. I had to put my heart out to her. So she came out, not to get all, spiritual, but she gave me a hug. And she told me, she goes, what is your dream? What do you want? And I said, well, I want to be in the entertainment business because I wanted to be a musician or an actress, which I'm doing. As you can see, my music studio behind me.
Right. That's just, that's incredible. That is amazing.
You know, focusing on your goals. There's going to be a million distractions and people that are going to discourage you. Everything but the kitchen sink is going to come at you. She goes, you're a woman of faith. She goes, I just want you to know, you book that ticket and you make that phone call, then the enemy has won against you and no one will ever know your message. And I looked at her and I burst in tears. And from that moment, I never turned back. I stayed. And it's been 21 years I've been out here.
That is incredible. That is one hell of a story, Elizabeth. That's amazing,
weird.
Though. That is
I have a lot of them. A lot of crazy crap. Yeah.
Gosh, so that is just, wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories. That's just from day one being in Hollywood. I could write a book and all kinds of stuff on my life. It's just, it was a really weird story. That was so prophetic. But after the fact, I can say within a 5-year time, I had left LA 9 times. I failed 9 times, ran out of money, couldn't find a job. I got homesick. I left 9 times and I always ended up back. And then after that 5-year stunt of leaving, I stayed. So it's been, like I said, 20 years. I'm not going anywhere. I think the vortex has sucked me in. This is what they say in LA. The universe is like, you're not going nowhere. So it's like, I'm done leaving. I went to New York. I went to Las Vegas and lived. I went all over the country. I would go for 6 months and always end up back to LA. So this is my soulmate city, I guess, what you call it. I'm married to LA.
That's crazy. Oh, wow. Oh my God, that is one hell of a story. That is wild.
That is wild. Insane.
But going on to the next question, as a filmmaker, what stories do you like to bring to the forefront?
Filmmaker stories, there's so many. I can say my first stint with filmmaking, I do want to say I never intended to be a filmmaker, but again, coming up, so I just fell into filmmaking. I went in on audition for a film called Costa Chica, The Last Exorcism, and that was starring David Heavener, and he was also the director and the producer. He had been a writer, so he was a legendary filmmaker in the indie world. And he even won a Lifetime Achievement Award next to Wes Craven. So this guy was really huge in the indie world and sci-fi and horror, which my heart goes out to because we had that, you know, growing up in my home. It was all about Halloween and scary movies since I was a kid. So I went out to the audition and, you know, I didn't make the part that I wanted, but David came up to me and he goes, you know, I wanted to tell you a little bit about this town. I know you're new here, so on and so forth. And it's really important that you make your own content because there's so many actors, less than 2% make a living at it. Everybody's trying to do it. This town doesn't need more actors. We need creators. And this was a time in the early 2000s where things were starting to take off and the internet and people were starting to turn to cell phones and making their own content and videos. It was kind of the early rise of YouTube back in 2006 when that took off. So he said, how would you feel about maybe interning for me and learning the business and production? Because you're at a time now, you're young to be a producer. A lot of people like, you know, who was this Ed Burns that made Brothers McMullen, and then Christopher Nolan, he made his film for under $10,000. So there's a lot of beginning filmmakers and actors that started that way. It's not going to hurt your career. It's just going to get you in the door, because when people see you as something other than an actor, then you might have a shot of being taken somewhat serious.
Right.
I'm just generalizing. So I interned for him for a year and I learned writing, distribution, marketing, advertising, how to launch an LLC. There was all kinds of red tape and legal stuff I had never known and thought of. So it totally shifted my mind around to becoming that entrepreneur. And he would tell me he says, you got to see yourself as something other than that. You have to be able to launch your own business, get that LLC and protect yourself before you get that break. Learn how to set boundaries with people that disrespect you and give you power trips. And he gave me a lot of advice because he was a lot older than me at the time. And I learned so much from him. And then after I left working with him, he actually ended up giving me a small credit in his film. And I maintained contact with him even 20 years later. And now I started making my own stuff. And I would work at a producer for other companies. I even worked for a short time for the legendary Canon Films that made Charles Bronson's career in the Death Wish movies and, you know, a lot of other famous films. I worked as a producer and partner with them for a short amount of time. And then I put out my own films. So I guess it's been 11 projects that I've worked on, working on other people's stuff along with my own that's gotten awards. One of my childhood dreams was to be on the big screen at Mann's Chinese Theater. It's TCL now. But I said, I want to be on the big screen one day over there. And my mom, you know, my family was like, oh yeah, right, kid. You're in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's never going to happen. You know, everybody thought my dreams were unrealistic. Well, 20 years later, it happened. I was in film school and I made a film called Seductive Shadows. And I also made another one called The Offer. But Seductive Shadows, I put up my own money. People said, no, I don't put up your own money, but it was film school. It was a short film. Luckily, Los Angeles City College, where I went, allows filmmakers to keep the rights to their films because not all film schools do that. So if you want to market these films after you get out, you can't do that with some schools. So luckily with Los Angeles City College, I did. I didn't know it was going to be successful as it did. And I took that film and I submitted it to different festivals. I ended up getting a breakthrough on that. I got like 5 press interviews. The Hollywood Weekly interviewed me. And then also the Hollywood Press, I think it was the Hollywood Weekly magazine as well, interviewed me. I ended up in a 2-page article in their magazine. And then I got picked up by Indie Night Film Festival. And it's a monthly film festival. And guess where that film festival is? TCL Theaters on Hollywood Boulevard. So they took my film and I had to resize it and put it in the right film medium package. And this has been about 5-6 years ago now. And I brought a lot of my friends, showed up like 30 people of just my own people showed up. So it was amazing. We had a red carpet and I see my film. It aired on the big screen at TCL Theaters and had a bunch of press. They interviewed me on stage and, you know, we had camera people, all kinds of stuff, paparazzi. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so surreal. Yeah, it won like several awards, best director at other film festivals, the Dream Machine Film Festival. And it just this little film I spent $3,000 on, and it launched my career to the next level and a lot of exposure. It was like, wow, I never thought in a million years that would happen. I was like, great.
Right? Yeah. That is amazing. I love that for you, and that's a lot. That's a lot of achievement. I hope everyone in my audience was listening. That's a lot of credits to her. Okay, if you didn't know, now you know. Just I
didn't know. Just a small town girl from a trailer. I lived in part of my life in a trailer park. I'm very humble, open about it. And I came all the way out to Hollywood to launch my own business. You know, at that time, after I did that film, I launched my own company, Envision Motion Pictures, and I'm doing my music and film alongside of it now. And things are starting to take off in lieu of the pandemic because now everything went online, and there's a huge demand for music in film because all content's online, and I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon. So yeah, it took a very interesting turn. I don't know, something that I didn't expect, as psychic as I am. But you gotta
like it though, because that's life surprises though. I like when life gives me little surprises that I did not, or no one's expect or even seen, because that's what really makes it life just a little bit sweeter, because it just gives you, you know, moments that you did not suspect.
No.
Going on to the next question, Elizabeth, I want to know, name 3 people who influenced your career and why.
Oh gosh, you know, I love this question. There's been so many people. I would have to say, for one, David Heavener. He may be watching this at some point. He was the one that took me under his wing and showed me the filmmaking industry. As I mentioned him, he was really a street smart guy. Taught me the ins and outs, legal aspects, and if I had a and he was a really good person. He's a man of faith, you know, not that you have to be necessarily a person, being a faith-based person, but he wasn't one of those Hollywood predators, you know, that I would run into every other audition. It was really hard, you know, so he kind of, I think prophetically he was brought to me for a reason, for protection. And he really helped get me to the next stage of my career and, you know, really build confidence. He had a lot of faith in me. Next person I really like is Brian Medavoy. And he's a legendary talent manager in Los Angeles. And he represents people like Bella Heathcote that starred on Strange Angel on CBS. He's been out here for years, maybe 30 something years. He's been a talent manager. And what I like about him, again, he promotes and speaks about things with principles and with morals. And he was from Northern California. And he has a monthly blog that he sends out, and I would subscribe to it. And I would read things about his story, about how to handle rejection, about how to have confidence, how to do this, how to do that. There were so many little things that added up to the bigger picture that I had never thought of. So I would follow his blogs and his posts. And I remember talking to him on the phone once, finally. And it's very hard to get to people like that. Getting in the upper ranks, echelons of Hollywood is very political. It's hard to get there. They run into so many actors. So I was very privileged to make, you know, kind of a distant relationship with him, and him be like a mentor without even him, you know, realizing it. You know, he even helped me with how to remove something on the internet that I didn't want on there, because, you know, God knows when you're out there, people will post all kinds of stuff about you that may or may not be true. So, you know, he really taught me a lot of stuff and how to do it with class and in style and in refinement, and not, be arguing with people and all of that. So he really shifted around that mindset and changed things for me. So he was great. And the third person, who does I say is the third person? You know, I'm going to say there's so many people. Start.
Oh, I know. I love it when
people that are face to face, or it could be, you know, really, you know, far away. I really like the story and inspired by Helen Mirren. And she teaches acting, which I've taken some of the classes online with her. And she's also a member of the Actors Studio, like a lot of famous actors, which I've been auditioning to get into. But I think she's really an inspiration, because she made it, you know, later in her career, and she's a woman. How old is she now? And she's still working.
Yes.
And she's just this very strong woman. And I love, you know, the roles that she's taken on, like Winchester. I want to do a documentary on Winchester. That's one of my projects I may be working on. And she really like inspired me in that role, because she, to me, was the epitome of a strong female lead. You know, you don't have to be helpless and screaming and running from, you know, the boogeyman. She really knew how to take the big screen and make it work, you know, in her favor and inspire a lot of people. And her storytelling is just flawless.
Oh yeah,
she's phenomenal. And that's, to me, she's influenced my career, because I love her technique and what she's done. She's really she's a standout to me, and she, you know, she is who she is. She has her gray hair. She takes on the roles she wants. I mean, she's really conquered the world in Hollywood. I really like what she's done. So she's kind of a mentor to me too, and inspiration.
Oh yes, Helen Mirren is just the epitome of class, of acting. Like, look, I would have notes. Like, I'm ready, Helen. Just tell me what you need, what I need to know. I am ready. She can do absolutely everything. It's just one of those actors where she could just do any role. I mean, honestly, she's Helen Mirren. I mean, that's all really anyone needs to know. She's Helen Mirren. Her work speaks for itself. I can't get into all of her roles, but. Yeah. Speaking of roles, that does bring me to my next question, Miss Elizabeth. As an actress, is there any roles that you've been dying to play that you haven't yet?
Ooh, what a great question. You know, I'm gonna say there's a couple of things. You know, unfortunately, the show Strange Angel was canceled. And that was about the legendary story of Jack Parsons. And it talked about Aleister Crowley and his secret society, the Ordo Templi Orientis. Found it so intriguing. And I, you know, being in the sciences too, as kind of a day job, I was really inspired about the story of Jack Parsons. And I would have loved to play a role on that show. And it only went to season 2. I would have loved to see it to go to season 3 and play like the priestess in the Gnostic Mass, or some kind of role in that show. It's really dark and mysterious, but it's based on a true story. And I tend to favor films that are based on a true story and they have true elements, because that makes it all the more mysterious and intriguing. It's not all about the imagination. Now I try to put myself in those characters. They really live that life. And I found it so intriguing, this society. And I just like, the whole story about Jack Parsons. I said I would have loved to play that role, or play Sabrina's mom on the show Sabrina on Netflix. Yes. That's a role that I would love to play. Those two things together. Yes. Kind of that supernatural witchy vibe, I guess.
Oh my God. I just got a clear vision. You could totally do that. If anyone's listening, him, I think we can do this, you know, Hulu, Sling TV. You guys can break out into your own TVs as well. So yes, I totally got a vision. You could do that. You would, oh my gosh. You would be phenomenal in that. That would be an incredible role for you. Speaking of existence, speak into existence, manifest that. That's going to happen. Not a doubt.
Yes, absolutely. I've managed to do everything thus far, you know,
exactly.
Fighting my obstacles and challenges. It's been one heck of a journey, is all I can say.
Love it. But Miss Elizabeth, I want to make sure, going on to the next question, I want to make sure my audience keeps up with you, your work. Where are you on social media?
Okay, you can find me at Elizabeth with a Z at Elizabeth Regal 1. So ELIZABETHREGAL 1. You can find me there on Twitter, also Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and also Facebook. I got a fan page and personal page. So if you can find me on my fan page, I'm very open. Sometimes I'll post where I'm at, or after I've left that events, people come up to me sometimes like, yeah, I seen you in that. And then I have to be careful when I'm posting on my page, but I post some really fun stuff on all my social media, a little bit of my personal life and professional life too. So you can find me there.
Of course, I highly encourage my audience, make sure you go follow Miss Elizabeth Regal on all her social media platforms. Give her a shout out, check out what she's got going on, and keep up with her projects that she's got going on in the near future. Speaking of actually future projects, are there any future projects you're involved with right now that you can dish about to the J Lounge audience?
Well, there's a few things going on. I kind of went through a rebranding process and going like really blonde. So try to figure out where I'm going from there in my career. But I can honestly say I would like to see that documentary happen on the Winchester House. My films that I mentioned, Seductive Shadows and The Offer, they got picked up by distribution. I neglected to mention by a company called Paraflex. So it's kind of the Netflix for the paranormal kind of sci-fi genre. And the owner, Natalie Jones, she's amazing, really, really sweet lady, very smart. She wrote her own like scientific based book. I would love to get together with her team or a few of the filmmakers that are involved with Paraflex and go up to the Winchester House, because I attended Midsummer Scream this year, and the actual owners and managers of that Winchester House showed up. So I would love to keep in contact with them, maybe make that happen. I think that would be really interesting since there's so much mystery about that in history. I think that would be great. Also, as you can see behind me here, I've got my music studio. So I'm working on a lot of music projects as well, dropping music for film, DJing as well. And I'm also a vocalist. I sing opera, believe it or not, on top of everything else.
Oh,
so I'll be having a holiday recital coming up next month with my lovely vocal coach, Kayla Bailey. So I'm working on that and also recording a demo for a very famous talent manager. And we have a Grammy award-winning lyricist on this project. So I mean, collaborate with music and film. Now that was my original dream, to bring the two together, and that's finally happening. So I'm hoping this music thing takes off in conjunction with my films. So that's what I have going on so far, although that's changing all the time. So
that is incredible projects, though. I know here at J Lounge, we'll definitely make sure to keep up with the many, many, many different projects that you got going on. Music, more acting career. I can now, your opera. I mean, you're multi-layered. That's what I like to see. She's got her hand in everything. That's what I like. I do. I love that. I love that. Going on to the number 7 question, what goals do you hope to accomplish one day in your filmmaking career? Well, and acting career too.
Yeah, it's mostly important to me as when I first came out here as a very young, aspiring starlet, it was all about me. And this is what I really try to tell up and coming talent. You cannot always make it about you. Wanted the fame and the money and the red carpet, just chasing the means to an end, blindsides that, entire talent of the journey of the people that you meet. Because at the end of the day, now that I'm looking back on 20 years, really people to be present in their journey and not all about the money and the fame and the accomplishments. We talk about those things, but to me, it's about making an impact and raising awareness on the things that are going on the planet. We're going through a huge birthing right now of a new age, the age of Horus or the age of Aquarius, depending on what faith you look at. Mm-hmm. And my films are really going to tell stories, and they're going to have underlying themes, kind of like what Keanu Reeves has done with his movies like The Matrix. A lot of his roles, they make you think outside the box. They make you see things from a different light. In an esoteric realm, I study a lot of unusual things that people really don't think of on a normal basis. So a lot of my films are going to be sci-fi and thriller based with that theme of reality, of things that we don't see. I want to get people to see things from a different perspective and not just what the systems tell us through media, television, and programming us to see things one way from the matrix, and really looking within and listening to our own truth. And how can we do that? How can we find our own voice in society? So it's going to be really interesting. I'll pick different themes to empower people, raise awareness, and make that impact. That's what I want to do with my films now. It's not all about the fame, the money, and all of that. It's more about impact and lifting people up and educating.
Love it. I love it. That is so refreshing to hear. That is so refreshing to hear. I love that. And you're definitely making an impact for sure, your work. I mean, like I said, your work is what brought you here on my show. So you are making that impact. So, but I love that.
Yeah.
I do. All right, Miss Elizabeth, I just got 3 more questions for you. Almost about to wrap up here with you. So name 3 actors you love to work with.
Oh, this is a great question. You know, somebody that I really, really like that's just made an impact in my heart, his roles, is Morgan Freeman.
Yes. Yes.
Who doesn't love Morgan Freeman? Seriously, he's funny. He's a great actor. He's very humble. Who doesn't love, like, he's like the big dad to everybody. He's one of those actors that can have chemistry with everybody. So I'm like, I know I would have chemistry with this actor. He'd be like my father figure, kind of on camera. I like the things that he picks things of substance. Look, he'll take a very simple film like Driving Miss Daisy. He can play just about anything. And again, he's one of those actors that made it later in life. He went to the film school I went to, Los Angeles City College. He's an alum there. And I like his new series. Well, it's not that new, but he always has new episodes coming up, is Into the Wormhole. And that's on Amazon Prime. And I've watched all his series because I'm very much into physics and science. That's what I'm going to school for and wrapping up, actually. And he made a show about it. And he talks about the mysteries of the planet, these different esoteric sites, history, science, all of these mysteries of the planet that are discombobulated. And he puts them together in a series, and he visits different sites. And he talks about questioning the existence of God, the question of the existence of the devil. Are we being pulled out of the matrix? I mean, he comes up with these really thought-provoking questions and makes an episode about it. So that's what I really love and relate to, is his mindset and his acting. Would love to work with him. Another person that I really like that has a very strong voice is Russell Brand. I really like what he's done. I don't know that he's acting much anymore, but he's really a huge voice right now politically and a lot of ways on his social media. He puts out videos all the time about things that are going on the planet, and he raises a lot of awareness. So I like an actor that has a voice, because there's a method behind the madness. And I love that about him. He was so brave to just go out there and speak out. And he has such a prophetic voice too about spirituality. And he hosts different events in England and other places where he has huge meditations and teaching people to empower, make an impact. So I just love that, what he's done. And he's a very talented actor and high energy. Him and Morgan Freeman are both Gemini. So I don't know if there's like a theme here going on. Intriguing is one of my favorite, I would say, shows on the network right now. On actually, I've been watching it on Hulu. Is excuse me, American Horror Story, and that actor is Finn Wittrock. I really like him. Some people may not even know who he is, and it's like he's been in pretty much every season, and he plays a different character. He can go from dark to light to eccentric to rock star. I said, this guy is one of the most versatile actors I've ever seen, and he's one of those that can play the boy next door and the serial killer. And it's like in some of these seasons, I couldn't even recognize him. And I was reading about him, and he went to Juilliard, so he's from back east like me. And he's just phenomenal, you know, an inspiration. And I just love that show too. You know, that season 10 was very revealing. The last few episodes of talking about a lot of secrets and stuff that are going on the planet and the so-called truth. So if you guys haven't seen season 10, he's actually in season 10. It was very eye-opening, and he plays a great character there too. So yeah, he's definitely somebody I would want to work with, because he's so versatile and such a well-trained actor. And he seems like, you know, really into his work and serious about it. So yeah, good.
I
He's
like
got
your
a good reputation.
choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are very collective, different choices. I like how they're, yeah, like you said, Morgan Freeman. I mean, Morgan Freeman. It's Morgan Freeman. Sorry, I'm a huge Morgan Freeman fan. Always have been, always will be. I am not ready to see what the cinematic world will look like without Morgan Freeman. His voice has been the comfort of this planet since day one. I don't want that to change.
Yeah,
So I get it. And then Russell Brand, like you said, he does really speak about issues and topics that, a lot of comedians don't, like to tackle or don't like to really talk about. And he does tackle them in a very raw, honest, in your face way. I mean, honestly, that's one of the ways that, you're going to really, take notice of the topics that he's talking about. So I get it. He's a really great choice to pick as well. Miss Elizabeth, I just got 2 more questions for you. Almost ending up to the end of the show. Going on to number 9. What are some of your passions outside of filmmaking?
Oh, I like this one. Okay, well, as you can see here, I've got a lot of ancient Egyptian stuff behind me. People are like, what the heck is all of this? That's like, why is that on your piano? I can say that I love to read about anything unusual and esoteric. I have a fascination with ancient Sumeria and ancient Egyptian style science, magic, history, because that I believe in history that everything on our planet was built on a generation or a civilization before. So reading books like Ra, The Law of One, talking about free energy on the planet. I really like a lot of the things that they had to say. So that's kind of like ancient civilizations, like I said, esoteric. I love stuff that's really, really deep. I love the goth scene. You will find me at Bar Sinister and a lot of the goth clubs.
Yes.
I was a huge goth because it was back in the 90s when the rave scene and the goth thing was happening. Now they've turned it into post-punk and synth wave. So I'm kind of loving that stuff. And that's kind of the EDM stuff that I like to fix and do. As you can see, I have my MIDI keyboard over there, learning to DJ and do that kind of stuff. So who knows what will come of that. And I'd say another thing that I love, aerial work for fitness, doing like the aerialist thing like Cirque du Soleil does, and silk and hoop in the air. So I'm rebuilding my strength after the pandemic, but it's something that I love to do to keep fit. And if I can tie that into everything else amongst the 10,000 things that I have going on, I will. And I'd say lastly, I frequent a lot of the Freemasonry lodges because I really, again, like anything intellectual, stimulating, a great history, and I've learned a lot from them, and was involved with Freemasonry for some time and initiated into a lodge. So it's great because women nowadays in the United States can become Masons, and that was never like that. I mean, it's in other countries